Prime Kamogawa may be the single strongest pound-for-pound boxer in all of Hajime no Ippo. During the build-up of Takamura's and Hawk's world title fight, when Hawk confronted Takamura during their post-weigh-in conference, Kamogawa stood up for Takamura and subsequently got slapped by Hawk. He mentioned something that was just crazy to hear for the first time, stating that if he were only 60 years younger, he could have mopped the floor with Hawk. At that time, I thought, yeah right, this guy, who is half the size of Brian freaking Hawk, could have beaten him clean. But after witnessing Kamogawa's backstory, I have to admit, if Prime Kamogawa had modern boxing knowledge, strategies and good fundamentals, then he could have easily fought over half of the Hajime no Ippo cast without breaking a sweat and become a real monster. And an important theme in the Hajime no Ippo lore that is referenced time and time again to transition from a fighter that loves boxing to a complete boxer aiming for greatness. The reason why Kamogawa could not have been a complete boxer during his time is because the true definition of a boxer was still unestablished when he was boxing. Boxers were referred as prize fighters, fighting for monetary gain, honor and regional titles. At that time, fighters came up with their own strategies and approaches. There was no ranking system or national titles. Kamogawa himself did not even know what a jab was until he witnessed an American boxer completely annihilating Dankichi in the ring. This American boxer is the American Sergeant Anderson, who is ranked 5th in the world of the welterweight division. He is your typical big guy douchebag antagonist who does not like the country he is in and sees the people as beneath him. Kamogawa is rightfully upset at him and questions where the Japanese pride is in everyone. We then see a woman who agrees with him. Do not forget this woman, we will see her 15 seconds later. The very same day, Kamogawa and Nekota were discussing the differences between prize fighting and boxing, teaching themselves terms like outboxing and jabs and how determined they were of beating that American giant boxer. I say that he's a giant, but in reality he is something like 180 centimeters. Their discussion is interrupted when they see that woman from earlier being chased by American soldiers. We learn that Anderson ordered them to chase that woman to fully satisfy himself after fighting weak men for a whole day. This rightfully infuriated Kamogawa and Nekota, and they decided to teach Anderson some manners. However, they were humbled hard when Anderson took both of them on and decimated them with boxing techniques alone, leaving them all beaten up. Thankfully, nothing happened to the woman as she managed to escape from the soldiers. We learn that her name is Yuki and she originally lived outside of Tokyo. Kamogawa was kind enough to let her stay at his home, which made Nekota jealous, so he welcomed himself to Kamogawa's home as well. Around this time, Nekota and Kamogawa took their training to the next level to defeat Anderson, who had been terrorizing the prize fighting scene in Tokyo. There's a significant emphasis on sunflowers in this particular arc. They appear in nearly every chapter and play a crucial role in conveying this arc's message. At the start of the arc, the sunflowers are bright, shining and full of bloom, spreading their liveliness and affecting the people around them. However, later in this arc, the sunflowers begin to wilt and have their heads hanging low as summer comes to an end. This imagery represents Nekota's and Yuki's situation. Yuki, originally from Hiroshima, symbolizes the fleeting nature of life as the time on this earth is ticking away. Similarly, Nekota's punch drunkenness signifies that his time as an active prize fighter is running out. Nekota was in a hurry to beat Anderson, determined to finish him once and for all to prevent any further damage to the Japanese pride they had in boxing. He also wanted to quickly return to the mountains where he lived, hoping that the pure nature and calmness there might slow down Yuki's sickness. With this in mind, he secretly arranged the match against Anderson, despite having severe brain damage at this point. Kamogawa, upon hearing that Nekota was going to fight Anderson and understanding the dire situation, knew that Nekota was punch drunk and rushed to the fight's location. Kamogawa expected the worst outcome, but to his surprise, Nekota downed the man almost twice his size. Nekota was literally toying with the world-ranked welterweight like it was nothing, even though his boxing knowledge was very limited. Whatever Anderson threw at him, Nekota casually dodged and retaliated, which frustrated Anderson immensely. In his frustration, Anderson resorted to using the rabbit punch, an illegal move in boxing targeting the back of the head, which is extremely dangerous. Since Nekota was already punch drunk, he felt the full effect of the punch and couldn't move. Anderson capitalized on this and continued to beat the already unconscious Nekota until he could no longer stand on his feet. He might have succeeded in seriously injuring or even ending Nekota if Kamogawa hadn't interfered, leading to Nekota's disqualification. Upon saving him, Nekota collapsed and was taken to the nearest medical facility. Kamogawa reflected on all that had happened and felt guilty about Nekota's condition, believing he was the reason Nekota became punch drunk due to their continuous fighting. This guilt fueled Kamogawa's desire for vengeance, and he resolved on would take on Anderson himself. What followed was the most intense workout montage in all of Hajime no Ippo. Kamogawa ran alongside a moving train, did endless jump rope sessions, tied himself with multiple tires for his road work, and most importantly trained his fists. He forcefully punched a whole log until it became one with the hill, marking the birth of the infamous Iron Fist. Meanwhile, Anderson only performed basic sit-ups to train his abs, which would later be insufficient on his fight against Kamogawa. Going into the fight, Kamogawa was understandably frightened to step into the ring with a giant like Anderson. His game plan was to land the Iron Fist on Anderson as soon as he had the opportunity. However, due to the size difference, Kamogawa struggled to reach Anderson and had to endure a rough beating for most of the fight. At the crucial moment, Nekota came to Kamogawa and gave him the words of encouragement, urging him to not let his spirit burn out. Kamogawa took these words to heart and continued to endure the punishment. He managed to land some shots, but Anderson was able to block them, leaving fist prints all over his arms. This was no mere boxing match for pride or glory. It had turned into a fight where both men were ready to sacrifice their lives to win. No matter how many punches Kamogawa received, he capitalized on any openings he saw. If he went down, it would be the end of him, as his body would refuse to stand up. With all the willpower he had, he refused to go down. Anderson knew Kamogawa's game plan, so he baited him in order to counter. However, he did not anticipate Kamogawa baiting him in return. Kamogawa withstood Anderson's punch to land one of his own. Then we witnessed the single second hardest punch in the entire series. Anderson's bones and organs on his right side were shattered, but so was Kamogawa's left fist. The process of acquiring the Iron Fist had already damaged his hands, meaning he was essentially boxing with broken hands the entire time. Now his left hand was completely shattered. However, Kamogawa still had his right fist. With all his remaining strength, Kamogawa delivered the single hardest punch in the entire series. The punch was so destructive that it completely pulverized Anderson's ribs and managed to lift him off the ground for a few seconds. This final blow showcased Kamogawa's burning spirit and sheer power he had cultivated throughout this relentless training and determination. Kamogawa was now completely out of options, and if Anderson had stood up, it would have been the end of him. However, Anderson's camp intervened in this match to rescue him, as the two punches Kamogawa had thrown severely damaged his internal organs. This was the very last time we see or hear from Anderson. For all we know, Kamogawa may have permanently ended Anderson for good. Kamogawa's arm was raised by one of the soldiers, who we later learn is the future trainer of Wally and Hawk. Later, as mentioned before, Nekota was on his way back to the mountains to live there alongside with Yuki. Before they parted, Yuki wanted to confess her feelings to Kamogawa, but Kamogawa intentionally interrupted her. The previously mentioned sunflowers, which symbolized his boxing dreams, had now expired. However, even when sunflowers die, they leave seeds for new sunflowers to grow in the future. This became Kamogawa's new purpose in life. Kamogawa devoted the rest of his life planting these metaphorical seeds, hoping to cultivate and nurture boxers who would embody his teachings and one day become world champions. But what do you think about Prime Kamogawa? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you've enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more Hajime no Ippo content. I'm the Reading Crow, and thanks for watching.